So welcome all for those who are coming in right now. What we're doing in this Miro board is adding welcome and introductions. So over the next 10 minutes or so, or just until we kind of slow down, grab a sticky note, introduce yourself. What we'll do is we'll go over introductions between myself and the other organizer, Natalie here, as well as our speaker four, and talk about our sponsor before we formally get started. But this is a good way so we all kind of get in and have some light, socially distanced networking. What you can do is you can just simply grab a sticky note over here once you get into the Miro board, and just drop that sticky over and list whatever info about yourself that you'd like. Or you can just click on this little template sticky here and just copy and paste it and use this as a template. You can go ahead and change the color if you want as well, and add any other sort of modifications to it as you'd like. As I can see here, what's really cool is there's a lot of commenting going on. So if you see somebody that you want to connect with or start a conversation with, you can go ahead and take this little comment box here and go ahead and select this on any card that you want. And you can just go ahead and start typing a message, and you can actually @reference whoever you want, whoever's attention you want to get specifically on that comment. One thing I want to note, just as people are coming in, is that this event is being recorded. This will be shared out, I believe, on Miro's YouTube later, just in case anybody else wants to come back and get the lessons from this event. Also, we're hoping tonight that there's a lot of great takeaways that you can get. And so down here in the corner of this introduction section of the Miro board is just a little tip on how you might save the takeaways from this. Up here in the top left hand, there's a little export this board button where you're able to export this however you wish and hopefully take away some really great learnings from tonight. And then finally, this is our first event. So as we go through tonight and you have any feedback or thoughts that you want to share with us to improve these events moving forward, definitely grab a sticky note and leave some feedback here. This is super important to us and we'll definitely be considering it for future events. So thank you in advance for that. All right, Natalie, it's about 6:10 Eastern time. Do we want to go ahead and get started with our introductions as everyone is wrapping up, dropping stickies down here?
Yeah, I think so. You ready?
Cool. Natalie, you want to go first?
Sure. So hi, people. It's so exciting to see you all here. Half of you I know, half of you I don't know yet, but I will read through your stickies. And let me just add my own sticky here as well, so I can do my formal introduction. So if you see on the board, I do Command D. I just duplicated 4 stickies, and my name is Natalie. I'm a product manager at Whiteboard, and as well, I'm really active in our community in Washington, DC, and I think it's a crucial time to get connected, even though we have limited ability to meet face-to-face. So that's why I'm really excited to see you all here, learning new tools, new way of communicating. And I truly believe with the power of visual communication, we can even get better at communicating asynchronously through the board. But today's topic is going to be all about understanding the reality that we are in. It's even hard to ignore that our life has changed dramatically past 3 weeks. And I ask to help us to go through our own stories and to understand what can we do now with this new reality. And sometimes it's different for different people. Some might still doing this kind of normal routine. For example, for me, I'm doing remote work anyway, so it wasn't a big change in that realm. But being a parent and having kids at home, this drastically changed your routine. And this is one of the keys that we might want to share on the board. And maybe you had some changes with your job. Unfortunately, maybe you got the pay cut or even furloughed, right? So this is another change that you want to maybe use as a way to understand your reality and what's going to be your next action item on your list. So I'm excited to be here. And my role here is the technical support. So if you have some questions, please send me a message through chat and I'll help you. Thank you.
And just to introduce myself, I'm one of the other DC Miro group organizers. My name is Michael Luchin, and I am a coach, an agile coach at Crema. And so my biggest learning from these past few weeks has been, I'm a new dad, relatively new dad of a wonderful six-month-old boy, and his daycare closed on the day we were supposed to start daycare with him. And so my wife and I are balancing both working from home full-time in our apartment and having a full-time daycare. I like to say where our reality is having our home be both a full-time co-working space and a full-time daycare, and figuring that out. So I'm really excited about this event. I'm really excited about this user group and kicking this off. Normally we would kick this off in person in DC, but again, due to the reality today, we can't do that. Yet, ironically, this might be one of the best ways that we could really kick off a virtual event with Miro, just given, as we can see here, the power that this has to allow everyone to jump in and virtually network and connect. So I'm really excited to walk through this all with you tonight. Just some things to point out up here before I pass it over to For, is if you want to click on any of our profile icons, you should be able to link out to Twitter or our website. And then also just a quick note on tonight's sponsor is Crema, which is a digital product agency creating web and mobile apps for disruptive companies and industry leaders. This is actually a shameless plug where I work and have worked at for the last 7 years. But there's a lot of really cool stuff you can check out here, even agile coaching or other types of like design sprint facilitation using tools like Miro. So all that being said, I'd like to pass it over to you to give an introduction for yourself.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. My name is For. Yes, just like the number 4. I'm really happy to spend some of my evening with all of you. Appreciate your time sharing the evening with us. And I want to start out by saying this is going to be valuable for you if we're all participating. This is not about me and knowing everything and having all the answers, but instead hopefully igniting a conversation that's valuable for you. And also just to note that that conversation doesn't have to end when we wrap up tonight. I will put my LinkedIn in the chat in a sec. So I'm in Washington, DC. There it is out there. I work for myself. I help companies innovate, which can sometimes mean the business people ask me, how do we innovate? What's that all about? Or it could be working with product teams in a way very similar to Michael's work, teams that are like Natalie's own team, product teams, helping them to perform highly. And there my focus is really on discovery of the customer's needs essentially, and building the right thing. And I have a background in design and mainly. And you can, I'm glad to field questions about that if you'd like. So Natalie and I were talking a few months ago, and we thought, wouldn't it be great to talk something about some of the customer discovery kind of engagements and innovation engagements I've had, and share that with folks. And we started to get that going, and then the new reality that we are all in happened. And we took a few more steps, and then we realized that all the conversations we were in, no matter what the topic was nominally, the topic was really WTF. Oh my gosh, what do we do? What happened? What's happening next? And we decided that if we wanted to bring people together in a way that was meaningful and real, that we would focus on, that would be the topic, not something else that wasn't really people's priorities. This is our sense. So, one thing to ask is, how does that match up with what you want to get out of the time we are here tonight? So after we came to that conclusion, we just tried to put a little structure on that. Since everybody is experiencing this differently, we felt that a very sort of narrow, highly structured approach would not support capturing, would not really support encouraging people to share their perspectives. And I think it's through being able to talk about where you're at that we can have a real conversation that might help us, and hearing where each other's at and knowing that it's not all the same, but that we're living in this same incredible situation. So that's kind of where we're coming from. And secondly, I guess what I'd like to do tonight is have that conversation, again, structured a little bit, and give you all a chance to talk about where you're at, and then take us through a few steps to get you to think about where you're at in different ways and help you, well, support you, and maybe I can actually be helpful, but I don't have all the answers, to see a path forward for yourself. And maybe that means looking around at each of us and seeing where we're at, and that would perhaps shed some light on where you're at and where you can go. So, since we don't all have our mics on, I'm going to dive into that, and wave your hand and make different kinds of virtual signals and noise, and we'll make sure that we're listening. So I want to turn your attention to this 9 questions that we put together. To start with the first one. And if you feel comfortable, I hope you feel this is a place you can be as forthright as you want to be, to say a little something about what's your situation now. And just the other thing I'll say is, it's up to you to decide what that means. Is that about work? Is that about family? Is that about health? Is that about you're having what your evening's like? Really, the scope is for you to decide, so that it's relevant for you, and it is something that you feel good sharing. I will just briefly tell you about my own situation, and then, want to hear what's on y'all's mind. So I am a single dad. I have a child who's in college, in as much as anybody's in school these days. My child spent the first half of the year in Latin America, excited to learn about Latin America and the culture in another country, and her political science interests. And it turned out that she had signed up for a front row seat on social disruption in Chile, not to mention threw in an earthquake there just for good measure. So her mother and I were on the edge of our seat, but she came back and she was safe and sound. And now she's with her mom, doing the best she can at however the college is able to provide a spring semester. My clients are wherever they happen to be. Most recent one was a municipality in the greater DC area that I helped think about and then start to work on some software for delivering services to people experiencing homelessness. That's a very, very, very brief description. And I also mentor some startups at universities and other places, and I've got a couple private student proteges also who are in the UX area. Okay, so now I'm going to turn my attention to what you all have on your mind and zoom in here a little bit. Where am I? There we go. Oops, sorry, folks. So we can all see this. This is great. Thank you so much for putting forth something about yourselves as we're only getting acquainted. So the reason this is a starting point is so that it's centered around you and in the terms that are meaningful for you. And so that the rest, each of us can see as we step forward a little bit into the group, we can also see the others, where the others around in this group tonight are at. And we see that there's some similar themes, but everybody's situation and how they talk about it is, of course, a little bit different. So I'm going to continue to read what you have to say, and I'm just going to wait a few minutes before we go ahead, and then we will go on to question number 2. But if you want to jump over there, that's great. Don't stand around twiddling your thumbs just on formality's sake. And I'll tell you the second question, when Natalie and I were first talking about this and we were drafting it, what I said was, okay, that's your situation. What's your speed? And Natalie kind of looked at me like, are we having this conversation while you're in a car? What are you talking about? And what I realized from her very forward, helpful feedback is I was really thinking about how adaptable do you feel right now? Things are changing around us a lot and at different speeds and often much faster than we're used to. And sort of how would you characterize how adaptable you feel? I put a few examples here, which you can take a look at. These are maybe sound a little bit clinical because I was trying to just get some facts down, but these are all stories that I have heard directly myself. Somebody who is a small, stable real estate developer. That means that he needs his properties to make revenue for his business and his life to work, and suddenly nobody's going to the restaurant, nobody's in the co-working, people are having trouble paying their rent. Somebody else who left a very stable job at an expensive city, well-paying job a few months ago to start a startup business in travel. We can imagine where she's at. And then somebody else who is in the hospitality business and is really just holding on to a life preserver basically at this point, hoping that they'll make it and trying to figure out what that can look like. So I guess listening to myself, this can sound very bleak. The point is not that it's bleak, but that it's real. They're alive, they're going forward, but they're very unsure of what's happening, and making a plan is hard to do, as I imagine it is for the rest of us. When I was thinking about this, one thing I recognized is that so recently we all had plans, and then we looked up, we had to execute. That was a lot of what we had to do. And then we came around the corner, or we looked up, and execution seemed like it wasn't really a possibility, or at least the tools and resources we had, the partnerships we had, were not as, we couldn't be as sure of them. So my next question is, what is the speed of events? And if you think it would make sense for you, and you feel like sharing, what I'm really asking is for your perspective, asking you to share your perspective on that. How are things changing super fast? Are things not happening? I'll tell you, for myself, it's both. There's a lot of, in the latter category of things not happening. I had a long conversation with a colleague. Well, back up. My focus is on my business, I guess, because I'm a little bit obsessive, and because I work for myself. That seems to be my focus all day in, day out. I was in a long conversation with a colleague today saying, who cares about innovating? Like, hello, you know, are the lights still on? And we had to really talk for a while to understand what kind of expectations I need to have, and how I can talk about what I can offer in a way that means something to when there are very acute, pressing problems in front of people, both personally and in business. So one person says, I hardly have a chance for a break. That really seems like an important, this question of, can we unwind, can we reflect, can we relax, seems like a really important, really important to recognize we may not have that opportunity, or it may not be obvious how to create that. And if you'd like to share, I'd be curious whether you're finding this exercise this evening a chance to reflect, or maybe relax, or maybe this is a way that gets you very worked up about what reality we're in now, and how it is for you personally. I think, Natalie, Michael, you can hear me, right? I would suggest.
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
it was a wonderful speech. I actually like the flow because I see people engaged, and I'm having conversation in chat as well. If people, you have some questions, please ask me on the chat window, and I'm trying to comment on your stickers as well. And please go ahead to another people's stickers as well, because I see some conversation going on each sticky, which is wonderful.
Great.
Yeah, and I think just to add, sorry, I was just going to say, after this exercise, like there's just a lot of really good stuff coming out. And I think maybe the last 15 minutes of tonight, we can just open up audio for everybody, just to have a discussion and reflection on learnings.
So Michael, Sana has asked if she can, or he can see the whole board. Can you show us how we can zoom in and zoom out?
How to zoom in and zoom out?
Okay, the question is, how can we see the whole board? Okay, can you show how we can? Yeah.
So to zoom in and zoom out, you can, if you're using a trackpad, just like take your fingers and like pinch to zoom, and then pinch to zoom, and you can drag around. If you're not using a trackpad, you should be able to just use the scroll wheel on your mouse to zoom in and zoom out. And then also down here in this little map corner, there's like kind of a little mini map for Miro, so you can actually use this to manually zoom in, zoom out. If you want to just see kind of the width of the board, you can do that. And then one of my favorite tricks is to be able to, like, if you're zoomed in and you want to get somewhere close quickly on the board, you can drag this little square and quickly go wherever you want.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I find Miro very interesting, I have to admit. And I was curious if you could just give us a quick tour of this platform. That'll be really awesome.
Okay, Michael,
Yeah.
here's a challenge. So we have through, you have some questions.
Just a quick overview of Miro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Miro in a nutshell is a virtual whiteboard tool. It's kind of a do everything virtual whiteboard. I like to kind of use it as the metaphor I like to use is it's kind of like if Google Docs was a whiteboard, because you're able to turn on and off this ability to see everybody's cursors moving around. And so it gives you the feeling of being able to like collaborate as if you're like actually in the same room with everybody at a whiteboard. It's one of the reasons why I love this event so far, because it's so cool to see all this activity. It makes us feel that we're all in the same room, even though we're not. One of the things that Miro has is just a plethora of awesome tools here to drag sticky notes over, and you can even freeform draw if you want. And actually, one of the things that's really nice is if you use like an iPad or a similar tablet, you can just really replicate that whiteboard experience from wherever you're at. There's commenting, you can upload images and all sorts of things. And then there's just a bunch of other tools in here too, just for even like adding Kanban boards for planning, integrating it into Jira if you're using it for software development. And then if you create your own Miro account, there's going to be a lot of templates that you can leverage too. It's incredibly powerful. I really recommend diving into it. And we also are very fortunate tonight to have Brittany here, who is from Miro and sponsoring this event. Brittany, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
You've pretty much gone over everything. I have been here at Mural for almost 3 years now. And I've just seen Mural being used in so many interesting and different ways. I mean, it's not only a whiteboard, it's someone's like, or someone or a company's single source of truth. Like everything from like start to finish, from ideation to the finished product. I've seen parents now in this weird time that we're in, using Miro, using the iPad app, and just having their kids like draw. I've seen music video directors, movie directors using it to kind of show their storyboards and share that with, you know, important stakeholders. There's just so many different ways to use it. I tell people to just dive right in and find what works best.
Can you can you comment on this, on what you whiteboarded? So let's say you wanted, you know, you you brainstormed with your team and you guys came up with something and you want to track notes about that, like a Slack, a bit of Slack flavor. Do you have that?
So you can use the comment feature that we're kind of using right now, and you can track that. There's also the chat feature, the side there. Michael, if you wanted to go there.
Yeah.
And then we also have an integration with Slack. So just different ways you can use it.
Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess we're ready to move forward for.
Yep, sure. So, kidoki, here we go. So, thank you, everybody. So I would be interested, I invite you all, I invite you all to be patient with me while I screw around. I invite you all to think about, go way back into the past to 3, 4, 2, 1 week ago, and try to anchor a little bit, what would you call normal? Now we are answering that question from a very unexpected perspective.
So this is like a, or can you elaborate a little bit more?
Yes, sure. So what we're doing, what I hope we can do with these first questions is that each of us can reflect a little bit and talk about where we're at. What we see when we look outside at the world around us, what's the speed of events around us, how we feel about our own capacity to adapt. And also for us, when we think about where we're at, how do we think about the sort of normal, I'm calling it, that we're comparing now to? When we look at 5 weeks ago, life in general, how would we describe that? And the reason I'm posing this question is a few reasons. Another kind of way for us each to understand where each other's coming from, and you know, very much coming from. And also, perhaps by saying it out loud, so to speak, articulating it, to recognize that we're here, not there, or maybe that we feel like this isn't so far from normal for us, particularly as an individual. So that as we go on with ourselves tomorrow and the next day, and as we go on through these questions tonight, we can sort of in our minds turn forward, knowing that we have a sense of what things have been like, and at least through this discussion, embrace where we're at, how we're feeling about it, what we're hearing from each other. Excuse me. So I guess just to be clear, I don't at all mean didn't even occur to me till just now. This is not about, are you normal, or are you a normal person, or there's no right answer as far as what you think, what normal is for you, or whether you consider yourself normal in some way. It's not that at all. So what are we seeing? Folks are sharing. I would say for myself, sorry, just trying to do a few things at once. I'd say for myself, normal is, I'm a very affectionate, demonstrative person. So a big difference for me is I can't touch anybody. You know, I can't hug, I can't shake hands. You know, I was out for a run with my sister, 6 feet apart, and I like slapped her on the back, way to go. And I was like, oh my God, can't do that. Now that's like dangerous. So that is a big difference for me. And another is the virtualization of everything about my work really is a real challenge, because I'm used to really meeting people and developing my business in person, on the phone or in person. And as a friend of mine who's been in sales for a long time said the other night, you know, how do you bump into someone? How do you chat with someone at a conference before they know you're in sales? So I mean, this is not special. I think, you know, I know many people are experiencing this. Earlier this year, I was in New England briefly in the winter, and I was outside shoveling and playing, and I was painting and moving furniture and helping a buddy. It was very physical. It was very hands-on, and I'm particularly aware of how hard it is to have anything like that now. I actually went out and dug a hole to plant a tree the other day because I needed so badly to do something real with actual concrete results with something in my hands, you know. So normal for me is hands-on, person to person, real face to face, making connections. All right, so daycare is a thing. That's normal for some people, I bet. Hanging out with some bourbon, absolutely. My buddy in New England has a shed in his backyard, and we go out there and we have whiskey. I'll admit, that ain't happening. He sent me a picture of him having whiskey. That's about as good as I got. Having dinner with friends, absolutely. Wow. So now the questions I want to pose now are turning us to where we're at and how we can find our way. And I really choose those words specifically because as I'm thinking about this different environment we're in now, where we still have an urge, let's say, to prepare and maybe even plan in some way. I think what I think of as a big difference is that we aren't simply executing on plans. And for me, it looks like what comes after assessment and preparation is navigation, finding our way, not simply taking a step that we've laid out for ourselves in an environment that we can count on will be relatively stable from day to day, event to event, year, month to month, etc. So what can I do is what I'm asking you here. And again, rather vague or open-ended, and you may have a lot of different ways of answering that. And as you can see for yourselves, the next question I would offer you is what is needed. And I'm raising those there as distinct because, so I invite you to just share with us what you can do, what you're able to do. Not necessarily also answering the question, what has to be done? Just where are you at? What do you feel you're able to do? For me, I am able to be here with you folks. Glad to meet new people and share where I'm at. I can check in with everybody I can really make time to check in on and support others to be able to do that too. So recently I turned on, my dad has a smartphone and he's like eager to understand the world that we live in, but it's not always evident to him. So I turned him on a FaceTime a couple weeks ago. And now he's like FaceTiming my sister while she's in her PJs folding laundry. He's still working out the whole social part of FaceTime. But he's so happy he can connect better with his pals and his family when we're all stuck at home, isolated, and wanting to know what the heck, where people are at, how people are doing. So supporting my parents in this case with connecting is something I can do. Bringing people together, I guess you could say.
People, if you have some questions in terms of how to use Miro now, you can ask me on Slack on a chat window. But it seems like everybody is really engaged. I like that. It's super productive, if you compare with offline events. Everybody's talking, nothing gets done. Now it's everything gets done.
Yeah, I mean, just look, all the value that's already been created here, all the networking that's already happened. There's some chats that have really bubbled up. And then just all the learnings that everyone has shared and contributed to. This is This is really powerful. I almost wonder how we're going to transition to in-person events after this.
We're going to have stickies all over our blouses and shirts. People are going to come up and, you know, put stickies on you.
Okay, so Brittany, questions to you. Do you need to have an enterprise plan to bring on multiple people to collaborate?
You don't need to have an enterprise type plan. We have, in order to just do kind of basic collaboration, our free plan can kind of help you do that. Right now, this board is an enterprise level board, but we are rolling out something in the next few days, week actually, that our team plan and everything above will have what's called guest editors. This is like really new information where everyone can kind of collaborate efficiently. So we have different types of plans, but if you reach out to me directly at brittany@miro.com, I can actually walk you through and help you find the best plan that kind of fits for you and your team. Does that answer?
And 4 is asking for discounts for tonight's participants.
We do not have any discounts for tonight's participants. Just knowing that out of a lot of different tools like Miro, I don't want to say their names, but our free plan is pretty robust compared to others. So I would check that out first and let me know.
Yeah, I agree, because I actually use my free plan for past few years, and I only switched to enterprise because I started using that inside my own the company that I work for.
So I can see in the chat, you have the consulting plan, just signed up 3 clients. Nice. Yeah. Got it 2 days ago. That's impressive. Can we use that for a future quote? Or
So let's see, folks. Those of you who, hold on, great. So those of you who want to, I'd love to hear what you would have to say about this question, what is needed? And this, I think for all of us, Natalie and I were talking about this last night. I think for all of this, this can maybe feel like this is sort of the whole, where it really gets down to cases for each of us. You know, what's normal? How adaptable do I feel? You know, I think, of course, I think those are things to reflect on that can help us get a sense of where we're at. But what do I need? We are all acutely feeling some needs that we maybe have every day, but the imperative did not feel so clear until recently. I will tell you some things I need. I don't think they're that interesting, but I want to be forthcoming. I need to meet some new people, but have it not be about business. Now, that's not to say anything about enjoying being here, but I, need some social action, social activity. I need to see my daughter, who is elsewhere, and I don't know when that'll be. I need some clients who are crazy about me.
Another question, Michael, maybe you can show how can people identify the creator of the sticky? Just right click and see the info, right?
Yep, just right click and then you select info, you can see who created it or who modified it. In case you have any rogue sticky note editors out there.
Michael spoke for all three of us at the beginning when he said how important your feedback is about this evening, and I'm glad to see some of you saying that you're enjoying this and it's valuable. I would also ask that if you think there's a question here that isn't being asked that you need to bring up, you need to talk about for yourself, or you think we all need to talk about, I'd love to hear that. I don't pretend to be comprehensive here, and it was only last night I identified a gap that I added, that I filled. Well, tried to think I filled. Michael, Natalie, don't be shy. Anything to add as we're going along here?
No, I'm into it. Like, I already asked community to help me out, so I'm just waiting for responses.
Yeah, this is great.
I'm reading here. Someone Melissa says she needs more humane work behaviors, and I'm just picking one, but I'd be curious to hear more about that. Put it on the sticky, put it in the chat, talk about it later. Maybe it's something you want to keep to yourself and leave it at that. I will give definitely a +1 to Kyle, who writes, avoid perfection and focus on progress. Both of those things take work for me, and both of those are high priorities for me. In a way, the chaos that I'm in now makes it easier for me to avoid perfection because there's no time. And it's so acutely, painfully obvious that whatever perfection I pretend to achieve, if I think I am achieving it, in a day, a minute, an hour, later is irrelevant and obviously imperfect. So that I'm so glad to hear that, to see that articulated here for myself.
No, I'm gonna ask a question, a weird question to ask. Like, Crystal, Melissa, you mentioned you want to grow food in your garden. Like, do you actually are you ordering seeds now? Because I haven't yet, but I really want to do it.
Yeah, I have seeds that I got at our co-op, and I'm starting some things inside, and I've got some things started outside, and I stock them. I go outside and I look at them, and then I squat down and I look even closer and add a little more water, and just am hopeful. And that's where I'm like just gonna save myself with the garden, and
Cool.
also fresh flowers and vegetables. Like maybe there's a solution there or something for my neighbors at least too.
Do you order soil or just use the soil you have outside?
I'm doing a combination. I've turned the soil. My neighbors have a compost, and before things got really bad, I went to the hardware store and picked up a couple bags of, amendments, soil to mix in with my soil. My soil isn't great, so that's not perfect, but I mean, radishes sprouted, sugar snap peas have sprouted, and I've got kale started inside and some flowers started inside. I'm just gonna grow a booming flower garden too, because why not? And seeds are cheap. If you have, and I feel like a lot of things will grow in bad soil. I mean, yes, great to have goals, and now is a good time to compost if you can. I mean,
Right.
I think that's a progress over perfection thing too. Like, bad soil, okay, well, stuff's still coming up in the bad soil, so hopefully it's not that bad.
Cool. Yeah, lots of tips.
I'm curious.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Melissa,
thanks.
I'm curious what your experience is. So I'm learning to be an apple orchardist, and my friend who I'm learning with said that he he can hardly find, he does a lot of cover crops, so he'll like plant 30 or 50 different seeds in a mix in his cover crop. And it's really hard for him to find seeds right now. I mean, in the normal places. So he's been buying seeds that are, you know, masquerading as groceries, poppy seeds, you know, etc. But are you having trouble finding seeds?
No, not at all. Glut Co-op in Mount Rainier, which is right over the DC line, is a bountiful seeds.
Huh. All right.
Yeah, Glut. Tell him to check it out if he's in DC.
Yeah, great. Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn to the next pane on this canvas for acknowledging the reality, and ask you the same question a little differently, maybe more pointedly. What help do you want? So I'm doing this because I know that for me, there's a big difference between what I need and what I ask for help with. And I know that I'm not alone in that. And there's, again, no right answer, and this is not a trick question, or I'm not, you know, calling anybody out. But I'd be curious, at least as an exercise, to encourage you to share, you know, with us what help you want, that you want to talk about. Or if you want to step out a little further, is there something you want to talk about that's is a little bit outside of your comfort zone? I think for me, I'm going to think about that for a minute. I love what I see here. Who is it from? Can't quite tell. More people to cheer me on. I would say this is one of the real potential losses of our isolation from each other. So I'm glad to hear that put out there. And I think it's important in any, you know, important even in so-called normal times. And it can take many forms. And I'd be curious if Natalie, or was that you, Natalie? No. Wait a second.
No, it wasn't me, but I'm just
you're over there. It's your cursor, right? I'm curious if one of you feels, either the author of this or someone else would like to share what kind of cheering on, what form they'd like that to take. I will say something. I'm paying attention to y'all, and I will think about, maybe I have something to say about that myself.
Hey, this is Sana from, I'm the one who wrote that.
Hi.
Hi, thanks so much for hosting this, you guys. This is like really awesome. I miss this so much. I think when life was the old normal, I think some of this connection was so taken for granted, maybe. I don't know, maybe more of a harsher term for me to say it, but I think it's just easy to say, like, I got used to it, and now I'm like, wow, it's so nice to just have like somebody just say, good job, good, you know, you're doing good work. And even if somebody feels like impressed with what I'm doing, that feels good. But I think just hearing you're doing a good job or I'm glad to hear you're doing okay. That's always nice to hear from anyone. And I always try to give that to everybody that I meet right now, if I see them, like with social distancing 6 feet. So that's my answer.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hear you, Sana. I just replied to because I know for sure, like when you go from, like maybe it's not only just work, but you know, in general, you have neighbors and friends. Now you don't have them around you. But I have seen in the past when I joined the company, the kind of remote, we have distributed the teams. And when you do this kind of work remotely, it's kind of super productive. So you in control of your time and you have your meetings with agenda and all of that, but you're missing this connection component. Like how do you build empathy? How do you make this more of an unstructured conversation, basically, right? So, and one of the things that I implemented a few weeks back at my own company, I call this coffee breaks. So I just, like I set the 10, 15 minutes regular time. And if people can, they will join me and we'll just have conversation about like whatever I have in our minds. And now I see results. I have more people sharing their stories and their life just on a Slack channel, because we do have a general Slack channel, but it wasn't a norm to share your humanity. And now because I started doing this and I'm sharing my screenshot and sharing, you know, quotes from this conversation, people opening up, and now we have more of a empathy going on, even though we completely remote now.
And Natalie, are you hearing that others are recognizing that as well? Not only doing it, but are you hearing people talk about that?
Not now, but I did my own research a few years back on remote culture, and I realized I'm gonna very a good fit for remote culture, but unfortunately, only a small fraction of remote companies paying a close attention to these elements of humanity. And I just picked those, you know, best practices and started playing with them in my own, you know, team's environment. And I saw the improvements it's making.
I think I'm glad the word humanity is becoming a common currency in our conversations about our work and our life. I mean, there's no one right word, but that seems to really help me focus both on personal experience and on how shared our condition is, obviously. So now if this is a time when navigation is a way to talk about how we're getting through the day and how we're figuring out what to do and to move and hope perhaps we feel we can move forward, then I also recognize that those of us here have chosen to be together and share and what we're doing. And so I'd ask you then, who do you want to help? So I think I strongly feel that, well, certainly for myself, it's by looking at others that I make sure that my perspective I have on myself, especially now on my problems or my obstacles, I feel like my perspective can be more realistic if I'm looking to see what challenges others have, what opportunities others are making for themselves or found, how people are doing the things that I feel like I can't do. I can't do them in my usual way, so I must be able to, they must be impossible. How do I do that? Or that I might have something that I can do for somebody else that they acutely need that I didn't realize was so important or valuable. So whom do you want to help? Do any of you look around and see people who you don't know, who you're looking for a way you can help? Now, there's a lot can be packed into that. Do they want your help? Do they want to know you? Or is it the right time? Do you really have something to offer? I understand that. But I'm curious to hear if any of you want to think about that, share something about that with us. For myself, I have both an urge to help and recognition I'm not really sure, who needs the help and how do I even bridge that. Maybe now is a time when it's more, when offering help is something that people can hear, but maybe now when we're in dire straits or we're full of uncertainty, for someone we don't know to raise the possibility of being helpful is not what we want to deal with. So, it's very unsure to me what to do about that. So I'm zooming out here at the whole thing. And do you see, all of you, some of you, each of you see connections between where we're at here, talking about who we can help, and some of the things that were on our mind at the beginning of the evening, beginning of the exercise, when we were talking about what we feel each of our capacities are, and what we need, and what we think of as normal now, given where we are. Does this question of who can I help feel like it's tied to those thoughts? Does working through some questions about, or reflections, let's call them, about where we're at, inform how we think about this question of who we can help? And while I lay that rhetorical question in front of you, I will then come to the last question of the 9, which maybe changes or broadens the scope even more, which is, whose future will I help create? So my hope is that by each of us together this evening, thinking about where we're at, thinking about change that we're experiencing, thinking about what we're up for, how we're feeling about it, what we need, that if we then think about a future, and a future beyond just tomorrow or just myself, do I see something that I want to help bring into being? Acknowledge the reality is the title we gave, because we agreed that we really had to be here and now and talk about what's really happening, or offer to talk with you about what's really happening, in order to be relevant and have a chance of the time being valuable for you. But part of that reality is that we're going to, the future is ahead of all of us, each of us, and that it's not determined. Not only, today we may feel like today isn't even determined. Don't even talk to me about the future, but the future's there. That is part of the reality. So I asked this question to see if turning this conversation towards the future and creating it and creating something beyond just each of ourselves helps us to find our way. Certainly, I would say, if I hold on to this metaphor of navigation, one navigates to get somewhere. One may not know exactly where one's going, but it's not wandering. Navigating is finding our way. And one of you has written, I'm not sure about whose future I will help create. And it reminds me to say, you know, this is not a quiz or a test or even something I would consider tightly, sufficiently fits into 9 questions. So to not know a specific answer to the question is as likely as to have a specific answer in mind. I am certainly glad to hear from everybody, and certainly glad to not be the talking head.
Thank you for actually enjoying that. Just want to share my own note. People who's staying here, please reach out. Please share feedback on this board, or reach out directly to me on LinkedIn. Share your feedback, your ideas, and how I can be helpful for you during this challenging time. Because I'm pretty well connected in DC area, so maybe I'll find a way to help you out.
Awesome. Yeah, and thank you for that. Like, this is just incredible to see the amount of collaboration and just insights that have been driven through this exercise here on this board. And I hope everyone takes the time as we wrap up over the next 10 minutes to just look through any of these comments or add comments of your own. And then, of course, up here towards the top where all the introductions are, be able to engage with anybody or note down those that you might want to connect with after the event to keep some of these discussions moving on. Just one note as well, too, is if you do want to save this board, since there's just so much value here, if you go up here to the top left hand part of your screen, you should be able to click on this share icon, and you can save this board as an image, a PDF, or many other formats of your choosing. So I kind of think, like, right now we can kind of open it up. If anybody had any big questions that they wanted to discuss, or just any big takeaways from the night over the time that we have left, yeah, unmute yourself if you want to bring up something to talk about that maybe stood out to you from Forrest's presentation.
Thank you, Michael. And I second that I'm looking forward to meeting and talking further with any and all of you.
Hey, this is Sana again. I was expecting, I think, more of like a thought leadership type of format when I came into this call or signed up for it. And I'm really enjoying this collaborative QA type of format. Like, this is so different. It's kind of the vision I had when I saw Miro at first, and I thought, whoa, remember those workshops I've had with all the stickies and all that fun stuff? And I thought, you know, wouldn't it be great to do this with other people all over the world? And I'm kind of like, this is really awesome to be able to do this with, I don't know who lives where and what they're up to, but to kind of come to the answers ourselves of what that future is like, and that it's also really human, and I like that spin on it. It's just a lot different than I think some of the other content that's going around. This is just really, 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 really awesome. Great spin. Thank you so much, you guys, and thank you for.
Wow, I'm very grateful. I'm really happy to hear that it's something you're here for, and also that it's maybe unexpectedly so. And I appreciate all what you're sharing. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Let's take it on the road.
This is Crystal. I wanted to echo what Sana just said, and I was aware of Miro, but I hadn't used it. And as a organization development consultant, this is such a cool tool. I appreciate your guidance also for Natalie and Michael and Brittany. This has been a really awesome experience. So just thank you.
Thank you for joining and for your feedback.
Yep, appreciate it a lot. I'm glad you're having a good time. Glad it's worth it.
I want to say thank you for Michael and Natalie. Just as like the community events manager, my mind is going like 100 miles per hour, and just sitting here and taking the time to actually participate and check in with what's going on was absolutely needed for me. So I appreciate this, and like seeing all the stickies, like I'm in Miro every single day, but like seeing all the stickies from all of you that I've attended, and just kind of learning where you guys are at and your hopes and how you want to make things better is awe-inspiring to me. So I'm excited to join in with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Brittany.
That's great.
Thank you.
To me, what you're sharing makes so clear to me is that this really is something to do together. You know, I don't have some answers to, speaking just for myself. I certainly don't have answers to hand out. Really, what we're finding, if some of you are finding this worthwhile, it's really because of what we're creating together. Excuse me while I look over here at what we're doing.
Hi, this is Svetlana. Thank you so much for putting this together. Before I start saying anything else about Miro, I just want to let you know that I don't work for Miro. I'm just a user, and in my previous company, we hopped on the bandwagon as soon as we could, because we did have a lot of remote clients already, and we found it hard to figure out how to collaborate well with them. We do a lot of website design at my previous firm, and we had to figure out how do we do all these discovery sessions or journey mapping or brand deck activities. How do we do this in a more collaborative way? And Miro came, we found it, and it's not just sticky notes. You can do a lot of different things. We used it for sketching. We used it for being able to share and collaborate just like we're doing now in real time with clients. And clients were very easy to pick it up. And we had clients that were universities, we had nonprofits, and then commercial clients as well. So with very varying levels of people and backgrounds. And I just really love Miro, and I hope to take it out to my next company as well. So thank you.
Wow, Brittany, I bet you enjoying that piece, right?
I love it. We didn't pay anyone to say this, just this is really great. And I'm super proud that I get to work for a company that, like Miro, that is helping people connect and collaborate. I'm all about connection, and any kind of tool that can help more people do it, I'm for. So yay, thank you.
All right. Well, I think we'll be respectful of everyone's time. So personally, what I'm going to do is after we end this, I'm going to stick in the board a little bit and just look closer at everything that was said. I might drop a few comments in here and there, introduce myself to some of you up here. So feel free to do that. Also up here, just in this little corner, we're capturing feedback. So we already got some feedback in here, which is really great. This is going to help us with future events. Make sure you stay tuned to our Miro events page for future events from our Miro user group. And thanks again to Crema for sponsoring this event tonight. Thank you to Four for running the show on this wonderful, very valuable exercise. And most of all, thank you for Brittany and representing Miro and just allowing this thing to happen and allowing this community to come together in this way when it doesn't really feel like we're 6 feet apart right now. So thank you all. It's been great.
Yep.
Thank you. See you online, people.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
While for me.
Or
Thank
morning,
you,
wherever
everybody.
you're at.
I look forward to staying in touch with y'all. Bye now.
All right.